afternoon, everyone. How are ya? All right, that's a pretty solid response. My name is Jennifer Silverman. I am with the VMware R&D Technical Education team, as well as part of the Executive Leadership Program Committee. And I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. So Caroline Winnett and her organization, Berkeley SkyDeck, works with over 100 startup founders each year. In her talk, How Leaders Can Inspire Women to Be Leaders in Tech, Caroline will share 3 of the inclusion strategies that they have found to be successful at SkyDeck for inspiring women founders to be leaders in tech. Pardon my run-on sentence. We welcome Caroline to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Right after lunch, blood sugar, getting up a little bit after a snack. Welcome. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes talking about what we do at SkyDeck. I'm going to leave some time for questions. And first, I have to find out entrepreneurs in the room. Founders, entrepreneurs, where are you? Excellent. We're at UC Berkeley. We run a huge startup accelerator incubator called Berkeley SkyDeck. We have lots and lots of startups. Thank you. And actually, applications are open. So if you have an idea, come check us out. And at the end of this talk, I'm actually hoping that all of you in the audience feel like I learned something that I can do, I've heard something that inspires me, or I have a startup and I want to move forward with it, okay? So one of those 3 things I hope will happen. We just started at SkyDeck. We just got started actually doing formal program to try to move that darn needle. The needle that says very few women are launching companies. The ones that do aren't getting funded. When they get funded, they still have more struggles. You know the numbers, and I don't have to go over them. At SkyDeck, we have a unique opportunity. Because we're part of UC Berkeley, we're not just a huge startup accelerator, but we're right next to our own pipeline, right? We're right next to students, thousands of students. We're connected to all the UCs, hundreds of thousands of students who we can inspire to be entrepreneurs, come to our program, and then coach them and their companies, not just the female-founded ones, not just the ones founded by underrepresented groups or unincluded groups, is a new term I just learned, by the way, but all startup founders. So what we're trying to do at SkyDeck is really 2 things: attract more female and unincluded groups to apply to our program, and then once they're there, help those companies grow and scale and be everything they can be, and coach all of our companies when we have them, when they're little baby startups, 2 people, right? 2 guys in a PowerPoint. We get them at that stage. Or 2 women in a PowerPoint, right? 2 people in a PowerPoint. It's often 2 guys in a PowerPoint. But we can coach them on launching an inclusive culture, teaching them why it's important, because not everybody gets that yet, and giving them tools along the way. We think we can actually make an impact, and that's why I'm really excited about what we do at SkyDeck. I myself am a founder, a female founder, obviously. Did a couple of startups. Some grew up and got acquired. Others were a learning opportunity. And I've had that benefit of being that unincluded group, female, throughout my whole life. And I've also had the benefit of being married to someone who wasn't white. My first husband from South India, very dark skin, strong accent, and being the mother of 3 biracial children. And that has been a blessing to me to better understand how I can move that darn needle. So what do we do? I broke it down into 3 categories. Is there a clock somewhere so I know maybe raise your hand when getting close to 15 minutes? Okay. All right. What do we do? There's 3 things. I divide it into 3 groups of what works. Number 1, show and tell that you have organizational commitment. Don't just show it, talk about it, right? Number 2, train, coach, and iterate your young startups. Teach them, why is inclusion important? Why will it make you a stronger company? Why should you do it? How do you do it? Iterate on that, because I know we're not going to get it all right the first time. And third, it's all about the network, and you've heard a lot of that today. Get people in the room together, create conversations, get them to connect with each other, So important for everybody in business. Business is all about relationships, right? But if you are an unincluded group, if you are female, those are even more important. I hope by the end of this talk, or the end of this day, your LinkedIn inbox is jammed with requests from each other. I think LinkedIn has a new feature where you can just sort of turn it on and it finds everybody in the room, right? So let's all connect with each other. How many people go to their LinkedIn and find that of all the requests, it's man, 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 woman, man, man, man? How many, right? Me? Okay, let's change that today. I digress. Network. Okay, so I'm at Berkeley. This is not your average institution in terms of its commitment to diversity and inclusion. So that's reflected in who we are. So here's the SkyDeck team. Actually, we're not including white men. We've got to get some on there, right? so we need to reach out. So how is this diverse? Obviously, there's some Asians, some white people. There's a little age difference. I'm not your average startup age type of group, right? I'm in my 50s. Gordon's in his early 20s, just graduated. So we've got some diversity. We could have some more, right? June was born in China. Gordon was born in Taiwan. All right, so what's the SkyDeck leadership? This is who we report to. And I'm delighted that as of now, the SkyDeck Board of Directors, the first female dean of the College of Engineering at Berkeley, and the first female dean of the Haas School of Business. And Randy's awesome. He's just awesome too. But yeah, this is the first time. I've been at SkyDeck for 4.5 years, and it was all men in my board of directors, and they were all fantastic. Loved working with them, but this is really exciting. So who does this group report to? Campus leadership, right? The chancellor at Berkeley, Carol Christ, the first female chancellor at Berkeley ever. And then, of course, the president of the whole UC system, Janet Napolitano. So we're doing really well on gender diversity. We're not doing too well on color yet, right? But we'll get there. We'll get there. Huge value. So I'm incredibly lucky to be part of an organization that not only values diversity and inclusion, but does something about it every single day. So somebody else talked about show. I think it was Linda, or it was Kathy. These are some of the pictures that you'll see if you go to our website or our materials, and we're very careful that they are inclusive. We're very careful that they're not stock photos. These are all real photos of real people at SkyDeck or at an event. That's the lieutenant governor who came to SkyDeck. We were happy she came. She's a Cal alum. Took pictures of her. She's great. But they're authentic and they're diverse. And that is very, very important. If you go to a SkyDeck material or website and you find something and you have a comment, do let me know. Because what people see, you can't see what you can't be, right? All right, so that's just a quick overview of how we show, not talking so much about how we tell, but at least how we show. Okay, train, coach, and iterate. When the startups come to SkyDeck, there's a couple things that they do, and they are workshops led by people who do this. This is their day job, okay? So Dr. Kara Summit has a company called Gender Lens. She runs a workshop at SkyDeck, which is Introduction to Diversity and Inclusion for Startup Founders, why you should do it, and here's how you do it, and some very, very fantastic, specific data about why it's important for founders. One of the things that she had found out by talking actually to last person you would expect, a venture capitalist, who actually said, I've looked at all these companies my whole life, and I find that if they haven't really started thinking about diversity and inclusion and acting on it, by the time you get to 15 or 20 people, it's too late. It's not too late, but it's really hard. It's really, really hard. And this was somebody who's seen thousands of companies over many, many, many years and came up with that number. Super handy, right? We can actually give the founders, here's a number you got to watch out for. You start getting up to 10, and they're all men, or they're all the same. Start to worry, right? Lucia is one of our advisors. She runs a business consulting company called GetUp. She herself is a woman of color in tech and has been her whole career. And she's been super important about helping us and me think about what's the language we use, how do we approach this, how do we bake this in to what we do at SkyDeck. And then Patrick Ford runs a company called Allies at Work. It's really important to put the men in a room by themselves and let them talk to each other. It is really important that they can ask questions of Patrick that they would not ask me, and that they can share with each other what's worked, what they're embarrassed about, all of those things. So we started doing those workshops today. There's one today at SkyDeck. No people with 2 X chromosomes allowed in the room, unless they identify as men. Actually, we did say that was okay. But it's really important to get all the groups in the room by themselves with experts who can help coach someone what they need to do and how they need to think. We are just getting started. We've got women in the room together. We've got men in the room together. Next up, founders of color, disabled founders, LGBTQ founders. All of these groups need to be with each other. So, how am I doing on time? Okay, 5 more minutes. All right, last one. Network, and network some more. One of the things we've learned as we go along with networking is that you don't want to just get people networking and sharing LinkedIn. That's fantastic. But you've got to get them to have conversations with each other about who they are. We had a recent female founders lunch a couple weeks ago, and there were a bunch of new founders in the room. And we thought we were going to do a quick go around the table and then talk about content, and Lucia was going to tell us some cool stuff she had just found through her research. We spent the entire time talking about ourselves. Each person spent several minutes, and this was like, 20 people in the room, so it took an hour. But we loved it. We loved it. Even though we've seen each other running around SkyDeck, everybody got to hear everybody else's personal story and why this was important. And at the end, Lucia and I went, well, we completely lost that agenda, but it was really important. So getting people in the room with each other and then ensuring that they can have conversations is something we realize that we need to think about programmatically, right? It's not just put them in a room and give them a beer, although that's good too. I was talking at lunch with some ladies about, speaking of beer in the room, many conferences that we go to, right? Have you ever had this experience where you want to walk up to the bar and get in with the group, but they're all men, right? And they look like nice guys. They're probably great, nice guys, right? But you don't feel that comfortable walking up to that group. The power of the network that is built when you're not included in it is not to be overlooked. So again, I think Kathy was talking about this. How do we tell people why is it important to get a room and talk to each other? It cannot be overlooked as absolutely critical. So the last thing I'll leave you with is that I was at a conference recently and I was on a panel, and the moderator asked us all, what does intersectionality mean to you? And I just popped right out. At SkyDeck, intersectionality is opportunity. All those founders of color and women and with intersections, that's talent. That's talent that somebody else might overlook, that we can find and nurture and support and move that darn needle and get more women and unincluded people launching companies and getting funded. All right, thank you so much. Questions? Any founders out there with a business idea they want to pitch?
Hi, my name's Sherry. I'm the head of accessibility here at VMware. I find that startups don't think about digital accessibility pretty much at all. And it creates a huge problem when they get acquired because the ADA may not apply to them at their size or shape or industry, but as soon as somebody like VMware or IBM or Google is interested in them, then it does apply. So my question is, how can we increase knowledge in this area so they're not so behind on that?
That is a great question, one that we haven't thought about, and I'm glad you brought it up. So that's something that we can bake into our programming. And we have had a fantastic startup at SkyDeck that has helped us see more broadly. It's a startup called Wheel the World, founded by you know who they are, disabled founder and a non-disabled founder, and they're doing tours and trips for disabled, and they're actually becoming the platform for that. So that's helped open eyes a bit, but you just opened my eyes some more of something else we can put in for programming. Thank you for that. Other questions? Nobody wants to pitch and stand up, 30-second pitch for yours? Jill, hi. Yes. Jill is one of my colleagues at UC Berkeley. She runs the Women in Technology Initiative. She's working on the pipeline, the students, and I'm working on them once they get founded. So together, we're going to move the numbers. Yes, Jill.
And I thought, what you said about intersectionality being opportunity is absolutely key. How do we get more venture capitalists to see that?
That's such a good question. I think it's going to be a combination of cajoling, wheedling, and forcing them to see the opportunity. There's a lot of research. We all know what it is, right? And just knowing the numbers doesn't necessarily change. But when there is a growing chorus of voices from accelerators like SkyDeck and groups like Berkeley that are saying, take your head and turn it away from the usual channel, right, and look at something else, I think it can make a difference. But I think it's going to take some time. Honestly, it's going to take some time. So this is a marathon, and we're just getting started. Thanks, Jill.
Hi. You're talking about networking and how people like to go to bars and build more networks there. How do you change the mentality where men feel like, hey, we could just go have a couple of drinks and things will loosen up and people talk more, but how do women get involved in processes like that when,
Yeah, so hopefully one of those founders who's at that bar will have been at Patrick's workshop at SkyDeck or someplace like that where they've sat in a room with other men, and somewhere in their brain you get a little real estate that helps them the next time they're in a bar and it's just men and they're chatting away and they're having a great time and there's a woman on the periphery, their brain goes, oh yeah, I was in that workshop. And I realized it's not just about not being a jerk, it's about making women feel included. Maybe we're going to open up a little bit with our body language and we're going to reach out and say hi, right? That's what we're aiming to do. And how many read Lean In and went, first reaction, great, women empowerment, go girls, right? And then a little while later went, you mean we have to do everything? Really? It was a great book. It was a fantastic book, and it brought up a ton of issues that were super important. We're now moving towards, wait, it's not all on us. We all have to work on this together. Men, women, intersectional people, non-intersectional. We all have to work on them. And we all have our own perspective. I have my own perspective. I'm a white, straight woman in her 50s. I have a little bit of perspective on people of color. Some. But I have my own perspective. So I need other people to educate me from the perspective that I can't have because I am not them. And I haven't been treated like they have by the world. All right, thanks everybody.